What's that I hear? Is that theme music? Well, yes, it is. Good morning, everybody. It's the Rob from 106.1 Kiss FM. I'm really hoping we're sounding good. I'm not confident, but we're here in the new studio. And so I've got, I think we're back up to full strength. You got me, the Rob, and you got my tag team partner in podcasting, the breathing one, the rambling Jerry Valeri. Good morning, Jer.
When my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut, Paul. Ooh.
All right, hoping everything sounds good. We're here.
Fingers crossed. We've got our headphones. We're talking in the microphones. We're connected. The audio should be better than it has been for about a week, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we are back to being the best sounding podcast in the country, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of podcasts, even the top tier ones, can't get it worked out to sound good. And I'm not going to make a lot of fun of them because, well, A, they don't have the luxury of being having two people in radio studios. And secondly, I get plagued with technical difficulties all the time. So I'm definitely not going to point and laugh. But there's sometimes I listen to big name shows and I'm like, wow, this sounds so buffered and so bad.
Yeah, Bruce Pritchard, his sound isn't always great, and Vince Russo's, they sometimes sound like they're in a broom closet.
Well, you just dropped a bomb. Have you started listening to Bruce?
I have.
I'm dying to. This is a revelation to me. I didn't know this. What do you think?
I really like it. I think that Conrad talks too fast, but once I get used to it, I mean, they know their stuff. They're a good show.
So are you starting from the beginning? That's what I've done, and I'm not totally caught up yet, but I'm into like February.
No, I pick and choose when I'm cutting the grass or when I'm driving places. So I just spent 3 hours listening to their one on Vince Russo, and I thought that was a good one.
Okay, I'm not there yet. I'm going chronologically in order. So I'm excited to get to that one because that's obviously a topic that interests me. Conrad, to me, while you're kind of air checking him, and I get that, he is what makes that show so good. His research, his talking points, the way he leads the conversations, the way he calls BS when necessary, make that podcast what they are.
And it's rare because sometimes, and Vince Russo, I think, if he had a better co-host, because I think Russo's co-host, Jeff Lyons or whatever, I think he's garbage. But I think if he had a better co-host, he'd be able to do that. He needs this as well. Just because it's Bruce's show, I think Jim Ross would benefit from this. Just because it's Bruce's show doesn't mean Bruce should drive the car. Doesn't mean he should be captain of the ship. Somebody needs to be the pilot and be in control. You're in control of this. You're in control of your show in the morning. You need that. Not everybody's suited for that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then you want to know what I think makes the biggest difference outside of Conrad steering the ship is
What?
To me, and everyone doing a podcast should listen to this. When the big name guys like Bischoff, Russo doesn't have this because he has so many shows. Even Austin, well, maybe not Austin because I think the interviews save the show. But I would take a topic over a guest any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Even if the topic is last night's Raw, like we do, I'd rather have one focused conversation about one thing than hearing some yesteryear wrestler reveal nothing interesting.
Yeah, even if it's an up and coming wrestler, like Chris Jericho does that a lot, and you'd think that Chris Jericho talking to the Hardys would be interesting, and it's not. And
I'm at the point where I would not expect that to be interesting.
Right. Well, I fooled myself into thinking that it would be, and that was the 45 minutes that I wish I had gotten back.
Yeah. And I agree. And the interviews are sometimes like Bischoff's podcast. I'm listening to it and I love everything except for the interview, which they decide to dedicate more than half the show to.
Right.
And then I finally gave up on it the one time where it's like, okay, yeah, Shawn Michaels, that's kind of interesting. And all right, Ernest the Cat Miller, you're kind of losing me here. And then one time it just seemed like
Inferno. What are we doing?
Well, no, it was one time it was some independent wrestling promoter from a promotion I've never heard of. And what this obviously means is he's more interested in having a guest than just having an interesting conversation. And then you got guys like Bruce and Conrad just talking about one specific topic on a week, and it's so much better. I'm at the point where if they had a guest one time, I would be upset. I just want them to talk. That's it. That's all I need. So that's what we're going to do. We both watched Raw last night. I would say Raw was, I got to say, pretty average. I can't say it was a bad show. Can't say it was a great show. They're kind of staying the course. You know, when they were leading to Great Balls of Fire, Jer, I thought that every week we were getting explosion after explosion of big things leading up to that pay-per-view. SummerSlam isn't that way, but that's not always a bad thing. What'd you take from last night's show?
It's, you know, some of the best food that I've ever grilled. And if you have a smoker or you smoke some meat, low and slow. Okay, low and slow. You put the brisket on, and it's nice and low, and you're smoking the meat for 8 to 10 hours. Some cases, pork butt or something, 16 hours. And it's low and slow. But when you have dinner, it's amazing. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with SummerSlam, because they're going as low and slow as they can. They've had Brock Lesnar come out now the past 2 weeks and not get involved in any way, shape, or form, or be in the same ring, even though he's in the same building, with the 3 men that he's fighting in the Fatal 4-Way. Now, they've got these 3 men going, you know, they got Braun, Joe, and Reigns twisting and turning, but Brock Lesnar comes out. Last week, they say, if he loses, we're out of here. This week, it was a very creative way. I liked seeing him in the ring with The Miz. I thought that was pretty cool to see. Gave him some face heat. I think they turned around one day and realized that Braun Strowman was the biggest face in the 4-way. So they have the Miz call them bad rubbish and go off on them, which I thought was really good. But he never comes out, and it's like they're saving that face to face, the Brock Lesnar in the ring with those 3 guys at the same time. They're saving it for SummerSlam or next week to get you fired up for SummerSlam. I don't know. I would use Brock Lesnar more than they're using him when you have him on a show, but you know, I'm okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that Brock was in the ring in his previous appearance with the other 3, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think that he was.
He wasn't.
Oh, you know what? There was one moment where he was a couple weeks ago. He was face to face the night after Great Balls of Fire. He was in the ring, and they were talking about it. And then the next week, they were going to announce who his opponent would be. Ever since Kurt Angle made the announcement, they have been apart.
Okay. So, yeah, I would agree that Brock is kind of being underutilized, especially when you're paying him to come out. I'm assuming he gets that flat rate no matter how much you use him. F5ing the Miztourage is probably not the best use of Brock right now. It doesn't always need to be F5 the other 3 guys in the match. It doesn't always need to be face-to-face with the guy he's fighting, or in this case, the guys he's fighting. But, at least we got something. But I agree that he could probably be used better when we have him.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but again, like, I kept waiting for him at the end of the night. Just like I was waiting for Joe. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, was Joe not able to get into Canada for whatever reason? He's conspicuous by his absence, and then he shows up.
So I actually feel like, do you remember what my theory was last week after the big Roman Reigns victory?
You're absolutely right about it too.
It looks like I'm going to be right. So here's what I said last week. I said that I believe beginning last week that each one of the 3 guys, Reigns, Joe, and Strowman, each one of them is going to get the upper hands each week leading into SummerSlam. Reigns was first. He got the big win in that triple threat match over who did he? I think he pinned Strowman.
He pinned Joe.
Oh, he pinned Joe. Okay, thanks. And then last night, while I'm a little torn as to whose night that was, I'm going to say last night was Strowman's night, getting the victory over Roman. And then, although Joe went over big last night too, but I think that this coming Monday, we're going to see Joe go over big heading into SummerSlam.
I think that you're right and you're wrong. I think that last night was Braun and Joe's night, and I think that next week we see Brock Lesnar go over.
That's possible too. That's very possible too. Do we know that is he confirmed for next week?
I don't know. They surprised us with him last week. I think at this point, coming up to SummerSlam, you should expect him, right?
No, maybe expect him, but I think Brock goes over too. Like Brock went over, with those big F5s and the Miz Taraj yesterday, but I think that Monday Joe will get the last word. Personally,
I'm having the hardest time picking who's going to win that fatal four-way, baby.
I agree. I'm almost at the point now where, to me, the question is, does Brock win or someone else? And I'm having a hard time getting over that hurdle. And then once I get over that hurdle, it's who's going to win, because I don't know. And that's a good feeling to have.
It's great. It's taking Brock or the field. And at this point, I'm leaning towards the field. And then I've got to pick someone in there.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But it's hard to pick against Brock Lesnar, especially with the impending retirement, angle, at least until Mania on the line.
That only made things cloudier for me. That did not clear things up for me at all. And then, and not only that, Jer, it was the timing, because now all you read about is Brock considering going back to UFC, Brock and Bones Jones, is Brock ever fully committed to WWE? I don't know. I will say this. Last time, remember when Brock was considering leaving before? And he came back on ESPN to say he's staying with WWE, and that was the big thing. When that was happening, I felt very, very strongly that I really want Brock to stay. And I still want him to stay. Don't get me wrong, but I'm less so, I guess. I was so into that last title run he had. This one's left me wanting more.
I don't think he's going to go to the UFC, and this is why I feel this way. While he is a competitor, and I know he wants to compete at the highest level everywhere, he's also an intelligent businessman, and he's all about the money. And he's also about control. He likes control. He can't control the UFC results in any way. I mean, he goes in the UFC, he could get hurt. He could get really hurt. He could lose. Losing would be the least of his concerns. He could get seriously career-ending injured in the UFC because they're going out to knock him out and nobody's booking the match. You know what I mean? Nobody's telling him, okay, so here's the finish. You don't know the finish while you're training, while you're going into it. And it doesn't matter how big you are. You get in there with a dude that knows jiu-jitsu, you have a neck that chokes. So I think he all he has to do is stay ripped, and WWE pays him a bucket of money, and he's guaranteed to win more than he loses. I don't think it's a negotiation tactic. I don't think he's ever going to leave.
Forget John Jones. Brock's worst injury could come from a strawberry at this point.
Have you noticed he stopped jumping to the ring apron? I noticed that at Great Balls of Fire.
What are you saying, that he might be showing his age a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. Although I will say this, to be honest with you, I think that he is tickled by wrestling, but I think that if all things were equal, making the same paydays and everything else, I think he's more interested in winning in a real sport. Personally, I think Brock prefers UFC to WWE, in my opinion.
I agree, but he has. He dominated the collegiate world in wrestling. He dominated in UFC. He's dominated in WWE. The only thing he's never really done is the Olympics, I don't believe.
He made the practice squad for the Miami Vikings.
Hey, look at that.
so there's that. But no, I'm not over here trying to claim that Brock's a weak or not a draw or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away at all for Brock. I love him in WWE, and that's where I want him to stay. It's just not quite as compelling to me as it was a few years ago when he had that monstrous title run. You want to move through the show in order, or how do you want to do it? If you have a rundown, we can do that. I have other. Do you have stuff? I have two things are jumping out at me as being a little flawed. maybe you can clear one thing up for me.
Sure.
Because there's two, I guess, writing problems I'm running into.
Yes.
The first one is involving Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. And
that is a big feather in Raw's cap. They put a lot of eggs in this basket for SummerSlam stuff.
And by the way, I dug what happened last night, so I don't want to feel like I'm coming down on it. Before I praise it, let me tell you let me praise it first, and then I'll tell you the problem I'm having with it. So I like that it kind of took a direction yesterday. I like that, at the beginning of the show, Rollins needed help. Ambrose wasn't there. Later in the show, Ambrose needed help. Rollins was there. Rollins is trying to earn Ambrose's trust, not only throughout the course of the show, but throughout the course of the past month or so. And then yesterday, after Ambrose receives Rollins' help, extends his hand, and then Rollins, of all people, swats it away. So finally something happened, and I was into that storytelling, and I thought that was a cool little way to make it happen. And to be honest, I even thought Rollins was going to do the fist bump or the high five or whatever Rollins was looking for. So I was
frustrated that he didn't.
What's that?
I was frustrated that he didn't. I'm like, you're finally getting what you want. Now you're walking away. Oh, you're dragging it out.
So my only problem with this is, if they're not friends, and they haven't been in this whole month that they've been doing this, why have they been tagging together for the past month if they're not wanting to? Can you explain that? Is there something that I'm missing? Why is that? Why have they been a team?
So I think the unifying thread at this point, while thin, is Sheamus and Cesaro. And I think if anything, this whole angle and feud, I don't know where it's going to go with Rollins and Ambrose. I think it's helping everybody to a degree, but I think it's helping Sheamus and Cesaro the most, because it's really legitimizing them as badass tag team. They're the tag champs. They're pushing these two main eventers. Both, I mean, they're pushing around guys that have won world championships. I know Sheamus has as well, but it's been pretty good for those two, I think. And I think it's going to end up with a tag team championship match at SummerSlam. I think that's what we're going to get. I
agree. That is where I think that they're going. And I think that you're right. The biggest thing you're right about is everyone's winning from this. And I would almost say the big winner here is kind of Seth Rollins, in that I wasn't caring about him. And I wasn't caring about him for a very long time, up until this thing with Ambrose. So he's walking away a winner. And you're right. The tag team champs, Sheamus and Cesaro, are coming off looking very strong as well. Ambrose is maintaining his momentum. He was in what I would call a pretty compelling feud with The Miz, and is now moving into a pretty much equally compelling feud with Rollins and Cesaro and Sheamus. So there's that. My only thing is, there's been no real explanation as to why they've been teaming if they don't trust each other. Like when we got Sheamus and Cesaro teaming, we got an explanation why. Foley did it. He had a reason why. Angle's never forced these guys to tag. They've just kind of been choosing to have each other's backs, yet not. And so I've just been a little confused as to the motivation over the past month. Again,
I guess if the motivation started with Rollins trying to prove to Dean Ambrose that he's changed, and he wants to kind of get the band back together, and he's sorry. So I think he's contrite in this fact. I think that's what the story's trying to tell us. And so he's helped Dean Ambrose, and now Dean Ambrose is starting to feel a little bit of a connection. And so he sees Seth Rollins getting beat up. It just happens that they're both getting beat up by this. They have a common enemy at this point. And I think that's the thin line that they're using to tie those two together, is that they have a common enemy in Sheamus and Cesaro.
Okay. I guess that helps a little bit, although I'm confused as to when that happened and why.
Listen, it's wrestling and
right.
It's lazy booking, I think, but they're trying to get us low and slow. I think that's this year's SummerSlam, and I'm hoping for the best brisket we've ever had. I'm hoping for an incredible SummerSlam, at least on the Raw side. we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but like, you compare main event to main event, Raw's winning that one for sure.
Raw's been winning since for a while. Raw's been winning for a while. Probably since WrestleMania, I would say. But anyway,
I like the Cass and Big Show stuff.
Yeah, so I have one problem with that too. And here's my problem with this. I feel like, I mean, we can certainly agree that at no point in time since their split has Enzo even been a little bit of a threat to Cass.
Right, which is why I think adding the Big Show to it allows it to go on without it always being a squash.
Right. My problem is since that is the case, I don't know why Cass is crying to have Enzo in a Shark Tank when Enzo has not been even a little bit of a threat at all.
I think that the reason for this is he's enough of a bug, of a gnat, that he's dealing with Enzo, and then he turns around 2 weeks in a row and takes the kaboom right to the chin.
I think maybe you just have Angle force Enzo into it as opposed to Cass asking for it. I mean, I get Cass is the heel and Enzo's a face, and I get that. I just feel like Cass shouldn't be concerned about something that's such a non-threat.
Right.
I'll tell you personally, I'm concerned about the main roster losing Enzo. All I keep hearing about is Enzo getting moved back to NXT or Enzo moving to 205 Live and Enzo being hated by the boys in the back. And
he may be hated by the boys, but I don't know how Vince could hate that guy because there are more Enzo signs than anything else, and the merchandise alone should keep him at least mid-card okay. I mean, right? He's selling merch.
Yeah, I would say there's more to it, but that's a very big... I will say it does come down to dollars and cents for the most part, and you're right, Enzo is dollar signs. But there is more to it, and a lot of times these things, the rumor and innuendo that we read about aren't wrong. I would be very surprised to see Enzo be demoted. 205 Live is that'd be the biggest mistake. And NXT is just like, I can't see that happening, but maybe it will. I don't know.
He'd be better off at NXT. 205 Live won't be a brand next year. Mark my words.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It might take more than a year, but I don't disagree with you.
It definitely won't be hyped or featured. I mean, like Superstars is still a thing, but they don't talk about it on Raw. Okay, so like 205 Live might still be a thing, but they won't talk about it on Raw.
Hold on, is Superstar still a thing?
I think, yeah.
Main event is still a thing. Maybe that's what
main event. Main event. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Superstar is what I grew up with.
So last night, Bayley revealed that she is unable to compete at SummerSlam. This to me is a little weird. I mean, like it seemed like such a non-injury. Like it was just a little shove. Like of how careless and dangerous Nia can be, a little baby shove was what put Bayley on the injured reserves last week.
Do you know what I noticed last night in her promo?
Whose promo? Bayley's?
Bayley's. She can't handle a change of plans. So she goes out to thank the fans for tweeting and being on Twitter and supporting her. And what does Toronto do? They boo her. They start booing her. And then I don't know if you noticed this, she starts flubbing. She was like, well, not you people that are booing, but the people that supported me on Twitter. And then she like takes a breath and then she's like, Twitter. Like she didn't know how to deal with people booing her. I don't think she expected that to happen.
I mean, listen, Bayley is a millennial through and through. Bayley should stay off of that Saraha app or whatever. I've seen people in radio go through the same kind of thing. You got to be able to look alive, think on your feet, and no matter how successful you become in radio and in wrestling, there's going to be people that hate you and people that try to put an obstacle in your way. And Bayley's got to learn to overcome those. I got to be honest with you. I didn't give her promo my full attention. So I will go back and I'll try to recatch that. I still have it on my DVR for reasons like this. So I'm going to try to go back and see how she handled that.
She handled it poorly. I had no choice. My daughter was watching with me. And like where I would normally fast forward the crap out of this whole section, I was stuck watching it because she loves Bayley.
And that's the important thing too, is she's connecting with almost everybody. We were talking in a message earlier in the night. Bayley is someone that I have experienced in NXT and seen what she's capable of, but you can kind of throw her on the pile of people who are not, in my opinion, living up to their expectations on the main roster.
She's an entrance. That's what I said. I think she's just an entrance, just like I think Naomi's an entrance. Just like I think I'm going to get killed. I'm about to get killed. Just like I think Finn Balor is an entrance at this point. And I think Shinsuke Nakamura is an entrance at this point and nothing more. I think that they could be more.
Yeah, that's the
thing.
They
have been more, but they're not more now. They're just entrances.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the thing. And if you take these guys and their careers solely based on the main roster, solely, and you can throw in the Ascension, you can throw in Ty Dillinger, you could probably throw in Apollo Crews, although for some reason I still have some sort of glimmer of faith in him. These are people who have not lived up to their expectations on the main roster for whatever reason, and it could be any number of things.
And I base my opinion on everybody on what they do on the main roster. Guess how many Ring of Honor Kevin Owens matches I've seen?
I'm going to go ahead and guess. Yeah, 0. That's what I was going to guess.
Guess how many NXT Kevin Owens matches I've seen?
I'm going to say you've seen, I'll go as far as to say 3.
1 or 2, maybe. 1 or 2. And he was on the main roster at the time. He was still just wrestling for NXT too.
Sure.
I don't judge anybody based on what they have done. You've got to do it on the main roster, or the majority of people won't see it.
And I also want to say that I think I'm pretty fair when I give this criticism, and I'll tell you why. Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe are two people. Joe is a guy I've seen a lot of because I watched his TNA heyday. I didn't like him, but I said, hey, I'll be optimistic. I'm going to give him a fair shot on WWE's main roster. And even Kevin Owens, I had a hard time getting over his look, but I said, I'm going to be fair. I'm going to give him a shot. And it didn't take Kevin Owens very long. And honestly, it didn't take Joe that long either. But I switched course on these guys when they finally convinced me that the time was right, that what everyone's saying has been correct.
Yeah, sometimes they prove it. Look at Seth Rollins. I don't know any of his Ring of Honor stuff. I guess he used to be a giant superstar. He comes to the main roster. Now he kind of bores you and me, but I think you and I both agree that he had one of the best title runs as a heel champion that I can remember.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Unfortunately, it only came to an end because of an injury. So that's, I really want Bayley to maybe recollect herself and figure out what's missing, because something is, and let's try to right the course before we lose you, because I know what she's capable of, and it's much, much more.
Isn't it interesting, of all the women that came from NXT, the 4 horsewomen and all that stuff, and the biggest star out of all of them is Alexa Bliss.
Well, there's that. I also want to say, with all this Divas Revolution stuff going on and the women's wrestling revolution, it is in such bad shape right now. On both sides, in my opinion, it's in such bad shape, personally. So
yeah, I agree. Why do you even have Sasha Banks fight Alicia Fox and Emma? Like, did anybody think that was going to go a different direction? I'll say this, because I had to watch that whole match because of my daughter. It was actually a good match. Emma can wrestle. I just don't. That girl can't get over, though, to save her life.
I still need to be convinced about Emma's wrestling. I'll just say she looks good.
She looked good. She looked good last night, anyways. I don't know.
What else is worth talking about from the show last night?
I like the Bray Wyatt Finn Balor stuff.
Oh yeah, I meant to get to that. This is the most interested I've been in Finn Balor probably ever.
Yeah. I'm waiting. It's coming. The Demon's coming for SummerSlam. I'm okay with it. I want to see it. It's been a year.
Yeah, I kind of like how he's returning the mind games, and this feud with Bray Wyatt's been pretty consistent. Again, it's not so much the big bangs, it's the slow, what'd you call it? The slow burners, the slow boils, what'd you call it?
Low and slow.
Low and slow has been the booking for this too. So it's not big explosive, it's low and slow, and that's one way to get there. That's one way to get there.
And you normally do this, but I think you've forgotten. So allow me to say, Jean-Pierre Goulet, we know your name.
You know that's a rib, right?
I don't.
So, I mean, I haven't read anything about this, but they both, I mean, Jean-Pierre Lafitte was I guess you can call him an enhancement talent, but I don't know what the best word is, a low-level guy in like 95, 96-ish. And Goulet, of course, there are plenty of Canadian Goulets, wrestlers, and I don't know. I just know it's a rib. I know that they're combining names there to give it's him
right.
the most French Canadian. I mean, it's like if they had a Latino jobber come in and call him Spanish McMexico. You know what I mean? Spanish. He's Spain de la Mexico is his name.
I love that they were chanting "Let's go Jobber." Like the Toronto crowd gets some credit. They were a good crowd, and I didn't hear a what chant all night, so I was happy.
What about what'd you think of the main event content? I thought the ending was cool because I had already written Joe off as not being there, and he surprised me when it happened, and the finish went pretty well. I thought. Not a whole lot of stuff to talk about inside of the match. I kind of like when Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn had a last man standing match. It was much more exciting than the Roman Reigns one, but it was okay, right?
I said it, and I don't know if I'm going to change my mind by December. I feel like this is the rivalry of the year. It's personally my favorite. Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman have been a lot of fun. They have not put on a bad match, and it's always brutal and hardcore. And I have a thing for big dudes. So like I loved it. I loved the last man standing match. I thought it was interesting. Now at the end, I think that if you want to get technical, I mean I know it's fake fighting, but Braun Strowman lost that match because he was down for like 30 seconds. The whole time the ref was on number 8, and then Joe starts choking Roman Reigns, but Braun Strowman never gets up. So he could have just kept counting, and he would have lost. He didn't get up by the count of 10, but they just, the ref stopped counting, and then he started over again, and then he got up.
That's where it comes in, I guess. But
yeah, whatever. Like, you've got to suspend disbelief. But I liked it. I liked the match. I thought it was good. I'm kind of getting. We've seen enough Strowman Reigns one-on-ones, but this had a new wrinkle, and I was waiting for someone to come out. But you're right. I had written Joe off too. I literally thought he must not be able to get into Canada.
I was just like, once it got past 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock your time, I was just like, well, he's not here. Hey, can I throw one thing at you before we wrap things up? Just food for thought for you, not so much for me. I know, well, I guess I don't know where I'm at, but do you have a runner-up for feud of the year? Because I feel like there might be a feud that interested you more this year.
I'd have to look at my notes. They're on my phone that I'm using right now. I have a couple written down.
Food for thought. I feel like you may have been more invested and interested in, and again, use your own judgment, and this is for you, not for me, but you were so into Jericho. I
have that for promo of the year. I have that's up for the Festival of Friendship.
They had you eating out of the palm of their hand. I mean, both of us, but you were loving it.
I did. I really did.
So just food for thought, because I would say right now, those are probably my top 2 feuds of the year. I might need to sort out where they are for me, but I just remember you were a mark for Jericho.
Oh, so you don't have Kenny Omega and some other guy I don't know as your feud of the year?
Strangely, I don't. Hey, but you know what? I loved that match. That the 6-star match was great, but I'm not qualified to talk about the quality of the feud.
Oh, good old Meltzer Magoo gave it, what, 10 stars or whatever?
Yes, out of 5.
I love using the nicknames that Russo gives him, Meltzer Magoo.
Is there anything else we need to mention from Raw last night?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was good. I think we'll see if SmackDown can beat it this week. I don't know.
It's beatable. It's beatable. But it's also SmackDown. So,
yeah. You never know what you're going to get.
Hoping to do, if possible, by the way, for people listening, I know we don't always have the most consistent schedule. I'm trying to give everyone 3 a week. So I'm hoping what the plan is to do SmackDown tomorrow. And if Jerry can, maybe on Thursday, we can do a topic episode. Last week's was fun, by the way.
Yeah, last week's was a lot of fun. Yeah, we could do a topic either Thursday or Friday. Next week, I'm on vacation. I am, unlike Elias Sampson, who was not in Canada last night. I will be in Canada next week.
Oh yeah, that's right. You will be.
So I will be on vacation, but I will be back and able to do a prediction episode on Friday. It just won't be from the studios. It'll be from my house. So maybe I'll be on top of a ladder.
Please be on top of a ladder. By the way, my feud of the year is still Valeri first, and then you've got Strowman, Reigns, and Jericho fighting for second. God,
we'll see how this vacation goes. We might have a barrel over the falls mat.
Well, then on that, let me see if I can fire my theme song one last time and wrap this up kind of professionally. Is it here? There it is. For myself, the Rob, my tag team partner in podcasting, the amazing, the wonderful Jerry Valeri. I appreciate your time, Jerry. We all do. Thank you very much.
I love you. But you see that my hand is up? You see that?
It's so funny because that's the moment you went away. Now, there you are. Do it again.
Yeah. My hand is up. Do you see it?
Oh, and my mouth goes shut.
Goes shut. It's down now. You can open your mouth again.